So I made this video based off this thing I saw online. Basically, this white supremacist Jake Lang, who is a white supre- I mentioned he's a white supremacist. Anyway, he sucks. He's a terrible guy. He showed up at this political convention, meeting, rally, whatever, in Michigan, because this Muslim guy was running for office, and he tried to spew some anti-Muslim bullshit, and the people attending the rally or meeting or convention or whatever booed him, chanting USA like any patriot would. And the white supremacist got booed so loudly that he had to leave because nobody could hear what he was saying, which I enjoyed thoroughly. At least I think he left. I'm assuming he left, but the point is that he was pretty much mocked by everyone there. Now, after this happened, this white woman, this liberal white woman, at this political organization called Unfuck America. I don't know how you can unfuck something. You fuck the Thanksgiving turkey. You can't unfuck the Thanksgiving turkey. Anyway, she tries to spin something about how the Muslim guy was promoting Jake Lang, a Muslim promoting a white supremacist, because that makes sense. And basically, she and her organization got called out for it because they had platform demand. Well, not even I think it was a day earlier, and of course they got rightfully called out for it. And you just shouldn't take them seriously anymore, if anyone ever was to begin with. It was the first time I ever heard about them. Anyway, the reason why I brought this up was because when I saw it, it reminded me of this Malcolm X quote about the wolf and the fox. And basically, in that quote, he says that he uses the wolf and the fox as an analogy. The wolf is like the white conservative, and the fox is the white liberal. And he says that the wolf and the fox are different because with the wolf you can tell and that the wolf is going to attack you, but the fox is always smiling at you, baring its teeth, but you can't really tell that it's going to attack you until you get too close to it. And that's basically what the white liberal is. And I feel like this event recently, which happened because of the white supremacist, pretty much confirms why I feel like many of us don't trust liberals, especially minorities, when it comes to white liberals, because they're so untrustworthy. I've felt this for a very long time, although I never really had the words, but we can always tell that the liberals are lying to us. And I just want to make it clear, it doesn't mean that we support conservatives. We don't, not at all, but the liberals and the conservatives are in bed together, basically, and they're always working to support their own interests. I think a lot about how people talk about Kamala now or after the election, and how Trump is, of course, just derailing everything, and people are always saying, if we vote for Kamala, things would have turned out so much better, which is not true, because she supports Israel and is very much a fence sitter, and would just delayed what I think is just the inevitable. But the liberals will distort it and say, things would be so much better if you just did things our way, which, in reality is just to uphold the status quo, because white liberals, first and foremost, are white, and the country is based off white ideals, which means that they will support whatever they need to support in order to get what they want. So basically, if you think about it like this, both liberals and conservatives are right wing, but the difference is that the liberal is willing to compromise certain things in order to get what they want. So basically, if we take something like, free housing, for example, or free food, whatever, and the conservative will, of course, just not be into that at all, because, they don't want to share or give up any power but the white liberal would be willing to give up or be willing to give people free food or housing so long as it benefits them. And it's basically the bottom line. That's why they're so dangerous to me, in my opinion, because it's all about the bottom line with them, but they are still white at the end of the day, just like what we saw with the Unfuck America people. They might have been like okay with minorities having rights, but only so long as it benefited them. Hence why they brought Jake Lang onto their platform, or gave him a legitimate platform, because it benefited them in some way to be like the fence sitters, to gain more power, which I think is also another point, because the liberals, or the white liberals I should say, tend to only focus on power. Don't get me wrong, conservatives also focus on power too. Remember, the wolf and the fox are the same, but it's just the ways in which they tend to go about doing things that are different. But the liberal will very much do whatever it is that they have to do to get what they want, which I think in this case is to just get both sides to support them, to put in their own agenda. Now, if you remember, I mentioned Kamala Harris. I don't think it should have been too long ago, a couple minutes, but my mind's thinking like a million miles per hour. And I mentioned that liberals tend to support Kamala, and if you know even like a smidge of what she's been like since the election, she hasn't learned a goddamn thing. She's been very much still been doing the fence sitting shit. And I think that also tends to prove why minorities tend to not support liberals, because we can tell that they don't really support us. I feel like, or I've known for a while, that liberals, Democrats tend to use the minority vote to just put themselves into power, and then once they get into power, they forget about us and ignore us and just do whatever it is that they feel like doing. So I feel like we tend to be very distrusting of them. I feel like we've known this even since I was a little kid, when the 2016 election happened. I could tell, I wasn't necessarily understanding why I felt the way I did. It just felt weird, the way that Democrats talk about us and talk about our issues, despite the fact that they weren't really doing anything to help our issues. And still now, they still don't really care about our issues. They're just just flailing their arms, pretending to be helpless, even though they have tons of power to do something. Especially with Israel, I'm pretty sure most Americans are pretty united on the fact that we don't want Israel in our government, in our society, and yet Democrats, who are supposed to represent the working class, don't do that at all. They don't like to support people that don't benefit them or benefit the status quo. And that I think is the main issue. I also wanted to bring up other liberals who are minority, or also minorities, and it's a little bit of a touchy subject, but I feel I guess, remember, like I said, the liberals and the Democrats in this case tend to use really just any political party in general. I shouldn't say any political party. I mean the two, the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats and the Republicans tend to use minorities, I feel as puppets to help push their own agenda. So someone like Kamala Harris, or Vivek Ramaswamy, or Clarence Thomas, Candace Owens, Priya Patel, you name them. All these people, right? they use these minorities like tokens, and they use them to like get the minority outreach, or the minority vote, I should say, to push their own agenda. And I think they use they use certain minorities like to help push their agenda, because if like I see like another Indian or Indo Caribbean or Caribbean person talking on some certain issues, then I can relate more to that person based on those issues. Um, Now I don't do that. I don't blindly follow politics that way, but certainly some people do. You know, people vote Trump because they thought he was an outsider, even though he's like the biggest insider of all time. But he perpetuated the image of an outsider, and so that's how he got the vote the first time, because he looks like an outsider. I gotta be completely honest with you. I have no idea what makes someone an outsider to politics. What is an outsider to politics? Can someone explain that to me? Because I don't get it. I feel like the only people who get into politics, who get voted into office, are insiders. I don't think there's ever been such thing as an outsider to politics. I don't even think Zoran is like an outsider to politics. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like everybody who gets into office is just an insider in some way. But that's besides the point. They use these people like us. I shouldn't say us because I don't know who was watching, but people like me who are like minorities in this country, to push their agenda. And I feel like some of us can see through that, and I feel like some of us get pissed off because we feel like we're being used, and nobody likes to feel used. Nobody likes to feel like they get feel like a one night stand, but it happens, of course, especially in politics. And I feel like that's why Zoran and the Democratic Socialists are gaining power, because unlike the two major political parties, or really just one party posing as two, but unlike those or them unlike them, the Democratic Socialists don't seem to be using identity politics in any way in order to push their agendas. They just are doing the things that they say that they do, and that's why people are so incensed with them, because unlike the Democrats and the Republicans, they're actually doing something, and that's the major thing, which I think is why people are getting so into Democratic Socialism, because it is actually doing something. It's not using identity politics, and it's not using people to get what they want, and that's like the main thing. So yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say. It's just something that's been bothering me for a while. I don't usually like to talk about politics, mostly because I don't feel like I'm educated enough to talk about it. But I feel like in this case, I feel comfortable enough to speak about it in this scenario. But I feel like, in general, like deeper aspects of things, I'm not gonna try and analyze anything. I'm not gonna become a political analyst. I'm not educated enough or interested enough like that, to turn my whole life to politics. That just sounds exhausting and just not something I want. So this might be like a one-off for me, or maybe I'll make other videos, but it's not gonna be like my main focus. So don't ask me to make any more political videos, because that's not really something I'm educated enough to speak on. But yeah, it's basically all I wanted to say. So yeah, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Especially comment, because I want to know your opinions on this, because I am interested. So yeah, that's basically it. See ya.